Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide, and today we are taking a review look at a very exclusive device presented here, the Montblanc Digital Paper.
No, pardon, mon monsieur. It is not Montblanc, it is Montblanc. You peasant, this is a name to be whispered through velvet lips, not butchered like some farmer's stew. Honestly, I cannot let you continue this review in such uncultivated tones. Allow-moi, Sir Reginald Blanc, the cultural attaché of all things refined, to guide you through this masterclass of craftsmanship or elegance. So what is this Montblanc Digital Paper? It is not merely a device. This is an experience. A 10.3-inch e-ink tablet that is crafted and tailored for the individual who seeks not excellence or perfection, but rather refinement and mostly status. Specifications, you ask? Ach, you peasant. We do not speak of processors, RAM, or screen types. No. How droll of you to even ask. This is a Montblanc. You do not need to know these things. Montblanc, in its infinite wisdom, discloses nothing. The only thing that you need to concern your pretty little mind with is this tablet has 64 gigabytes of storage, no micro SD card expansion because that would be vulgar, and it is plentiful of boundless elegance. For you see, when one purchases a Montblanc, one does not purchase a device. One is investing in mystery. Now, let us speak of the design. A singular marvel of modern minimalism. A sculpture in some kind of metal aluminium alloy and not stitched leather, glued on leather on the side. When you are in presence of this magnificence, one could maybe even believe that this was designed by Montblanc themselves. But between us, it is 99.9% the same exact design as the much older and cheaper Lenovo Smart Paper. But still, clearly, Montblanc has improved upon it immensely simply by charging more for it. As for the build quality, well, on my unit, the leather strip is not really applied perfectly. It's a little crooked and a little bit uneven to the side to side. But that's character, so this must be fine, no? Also, on this unit is the screen on the top and the bottom sides where the strip was applied and pushed. Maybe a little bit overzealously. Well, yeah, it's a little bit bent in. Maybe not a defect, maybe a conversation starter. Some users claim that their units are perfectly well executed, and that is excellent. Montblanc news for the Montblanc devices. But I ask you, if you have this logo in front of you day in, day out, is this not perfection in itself? Or reading, c'est magnifique. Is there anything more marvelous than letters on a page jumbling all about, making no sense whatsoever? And here on this device, the screen truly excels. Almost. The contrast is très bien, and the clarity is almost divine. Combined with this logo, it is an ideal reader, is it not? But you see, it's not exactly how one would say perfect, dare I say. There are some small nibbles, if you will permit me. For you see, even though you do have a USB port here for digital contact with your computer, the USB transfer is, at this current stage, purely ornamental. Yes, you can connect it to your computer and you will see these strange two partitions, each having 2 gigabytes to the digital paper and from the digital paper. And you can transfer multiple files to or from these two mysterious folders. However, when you go back to your device, they vanish into the digital chateau, never to be seen again. Another element of mystery. To properly transfer books or PDF files or anything like that onto your Montblanc Digital Paper, one must use exclusively the Montblanc Digital Paper Companion app, which in itself works very, very well. However, you must know that, for example, on the Android, you can transfer only one item at a time. You cannot select multiple files or folder, one file at a time. Oh, such a splendid feature, because it allows you to appreciate the splendor of each document and book that you wish to transfer on this. And you must second guess yourself, do I really want to transfer this onto my magnificent Montblanc digital paper or not? You savor the experience like fine wine or fine tobacco. So, folders, bulk transfer, brr, such vulgarity. Also, if you open the EPUB or ebook on your digital paper, the hyperlinks to chapters within the book, they work fine. So you can navigate from chapter 1 to chapter 93, for example. But should you have the same book in PDF file format, unfortunately the hyperlinks in PDF files do not function at all. Why? Well, mystery builds character. You want to adjust your Wi-Fi, turn it on or off, or check your battery levels while you are reading? No, no, no. You cannot do that from the reader. You must exit the reader first, go back home, then swipe down, then you can see your battery levels or toggle the Wi-Fi, and then you must go back to your document and your reading. This is not a flaw in design. This is merely another opportunity for you to stop and reflect on your actions. Now this is the Montblanc pen that comes with your digital paper device. This is what it's all about, isn't it not? It feels quite nice. Maybe even very good. The only thing that I could maybe fault it is that it's maybe too perfect, because the smoothness and the perfection of the execution of this pen, it makes it so smooth that after only 15 minutes of writing and using it, my hands started slipping around on it like butter on polished violin. So this is a luxury, frictionless design in the Montblanc pen. However, the amortization between the nib and the body and the actual driver itself, simply splendid and magnifique. In all seriousness, this is so comfortable to write on. You can press on it and exquisite. A cloud of writing joy would be the amortization feel of this pen. It has the button here, and this is two buttons in fact, front and back, and both are programmable. The press is nice, satisfying, and precise, and very, very tactile. But the true star of the show is the rear button here, because this is not an eraser. No, no, no. This is a multifunction intelligent button that can have different functions for different types of gestures. And to make it even better, the whole pen vibrates of joy when you use it. It is so splendid. Of course, one must retrain their peasant brain for using this, the buttery perfection here, to use this pen. But once you do, the experience is truly, truly nice. Of course, when you compare it to other pens, such as, for example, the Supernote Heart of Metal 2 pen or the Kindle Scribe Premium pen, those are also very good pens. But they do not have what this has. Montblanc here and Montblanc logo there. And now we come to the heart of the experience of the Montblanc digital paper, the writing. And yes, objectively, this is where Montblanc digital paper truly shines. The feel is organic, sublime, natural, flowy, oh, so pleasant to use. Even more pleasant than the peasantish like Remarkable 2. Although not quite as Remarkable 1. Precision, top tier. Latency, well, maybe not quite as good as Remarkable 2 at around 35 milliseconds, and Remarkable 2 having 20-something milliseconds despite being 5 years older? But let us not be obsessed with speed. In Montblanc, we can savor every millisecond of this magnificent experience. With the pen, you receive 3 different types of nibs. The default one feels divine. Almost. It has paper-like feel, excellent responsiveness, excellent precision, and perfect control. Sometimes it may feel a little bit squeaky here and there, but overall it is a very, very pleasant experience. Use this nib and only this nib because it offers for the best writing experience on the Montblanc. The smooth nib still does have some kind of paper-like feel, but it is much harder and way more slippery. This means that you have way less control when writing. So no, it is like writing with a swan, not like with a pen. And finally, we have the matte nib. No. This one has no paper-like feel, it is the hardest of them all, most slippery of them all, and most disconnected of them all. It is like attempting to write on polished marble with socks. The felt nib is the nib. Trust me, this is the one to use. As for the brushes in the notebook, there are many to choose from, but ignore them. Ignore them all except the fountain pen. The fountain pen brush is a revelation. It is truly one of the finest calibrated writing brushes that I have ever experienced on any device. Expressive, dynamic, precise, personal, easily controllable, absolutely magnifique. In order to get the best writing experience out of the Montblanc Digital Paper, stick to felt nib, fountain pen for all of your writing, ignore all of the other brushes except for the highlighter when you need to highlight some of the passages or segments in your notebooks. This brush alone justifies the price, well, almost. But the notebook itself is as minimalist as a block of stone. No layers, no tools, no handwriting to text, no nothing. This is a digital notebook for you to take your thoughts into a written digital format. You are permitted to search your handwriting, but of course not from the notebook. That would be silly. You have to exit the notebook and do the system-wide search, and then you will be able to find a word in a page and you can access that page, but then you must find that word in the page because it is not marked in any way. So much fun. However, you cannot just go and convert your handwriting page or the whole notebook to a text format because this is not a text processing device. It is not meant for that. So why would you need text? It doesn't handle text, therefore it doesn't give you text, ergo you do not need text, and if you do, go away. So yes, I hear other people saying, ooh, Remarkable 2 or Kindle Scribe or Books Go 10.3, those are older but much cheaper devices that maybe even offer better functionality, better image quality, better performance, better build quality, more original design.
Right, now that was way too silly. He's not even French, nor German, nor English. Now, let's get on with it. Let's take a look at the DAF or Display Analysis Framework for the Montblanc Digital Paper. Starting with the readability portion of the test, and Digital Paper is performing quite okay at standard fonts, 100% blackness, 6-point size, scores okay, but we can start to see some kind of blurring out and losing some of the details, which is not really that great. We can see the same trend as we start to go down to 70% blackness and all the way down to 50% blackness, but the 10-point and 16 points font sizes are okay. Rendering over thin fonts at 100% remains good, and we still see those issues at the smaller side of things. And when we step down to 50% readability, it's very nicely readable at large and medium font sizes, but at small font sizes, Although still readable, it's not really that great. When we go to thick fonts at 100% blackness, we can actually see that there is definitely some kind of a problem with this device or the reader handling smaller font sizes, because you can see here that they are becoming almost completely blurred out with the edges and basically losing the cohesion here in a meaningful way. It becomes a bit better, of course, naturally, at blackness at 50%, but this performance here, that's why the test exists, to basically expose weaknesses of this type. Moving on to contrast and uniformity portion of the test, where we check out the uniformity and quality of rendering the pure white color and the black color in excellent lighting conditions, which would be 4000 lux, average lighting conditions 750 lux, and poor lighting conditions at 125 lux. In the display portion of the test, which is what you're seeing here, the shutter speed compensates for the differences to basically expose any uniformity issues, basically the quality of the display. And the performance of the digital paper is okay. It's not great, it's okay at best, but there are clearly some uniformity issues that are very, very clearly visible, especially when we go down to poor lighting conditions. That's why the test is there, to expose these issues. And you can see quite a bit of uniformity issues, both in white and in rendering of the black. Then we move on to the observable portion of the test, which is what you will be able to see in excellent, average, and poor lighting conditions. We can see that the rendering of the black is actually okay, although yeah, those uniformity issues are consistently present, and you will be affected by them under any lighting conditions, whether you're viewing white or black content. Ghosting performance on digital paper is actually quite good. We do have significant ghosting of purely text content, but the handling of the graphics and image type of content is deghosting fairly nicely. So that means that when we introduce the combined test, texts and images, that it's performing okay. It's not blisteringly great or anything like that, but it is okay. The surface of the screen is treated in such a way that it handles reflections really, really well, especially the sharpness. So it basically diffuses the reflections in an absolutely excellent way. You can clearly see that there's no way that you can see a clear line of any sort here. That is a really, really important component. However, there's also the second component, which is the intensity of the reflection. And in this case, it's a little bit intense. You can see that it's starting to kind of glare. So while the surface will diffuse the reflections in a really, really excellent way, it may have a tendency to actually glare under certain viewing conditions. Surface roughness characteristics of digital paper are fairly good. It has surface roughness of 0.699 or 0.7, which is quite okay, but much more importantly, the surface roughness curve has that paper-like-ish kind of quality, which has nice smooth and deep valleys versus really sharp peaks here, and quite a healthy distance between highest of the peaks, which allows for a pleasant travel and friction of the pen nib to actually go down into these valleys, catch those peaks, and basically start feeling quite nice. One of the benefits of not having a front light, in theory at least, is to have a lower surface to screen distance. That unfortunately is not the case with the digital paper, because its surface to screen distance is at around 0.95 millimeters, which is almost the same as some of the front lit devices. Writing latency of the digital paper is at around 35 millisecond mark. It is not terribly consistent, because I always use about 10 runs and then average out the details, which you will see in the DAF results later on. But the 35 milliseconds is really nothing to write home about, especially not at the price range, when you're using the active pen that's dedicated to this device, and when your whole point of the device is the ultimate best writing characteristics. We have devices on the market that are sub 20 millisecond categories, such as Kindle Scribe at 17 milliseconds, Supernote Manta at 14 milliseconds, which are EMR, using passive pens, which means that you can use any pen that you want, any nib that you want. But when you actually move to the active category, we're getting down to 10 millisecond type of values with Remarkable Paper Pro, for example. And yeah, this simply doesn't cut it. So unfortunately, this was one of the categories where this device had to perform really, really well, and it doesn't. Refresh time, it having only one refresh mode, is fairly clean, fairly, non-blinky and all of that kind of stuff, which is nice. But it is also fairly slow at around 381.63 milliseconds. So how does digital paper compare to other older and cheaper devices out there on the market? And in this comparison, I chose Remarkable 2 and the Supernote Manta A5X2. Why? Well, both are non-front-lit devices. They are black and white devices, and both primarily are focused for predominantly writing type of activities and distraction-free type of activities. And when we compare these three in the readability category, we can see that the digital paper is outperforming Remarkable 2 all the way down to, thick fonts, and that makes sense because it does have a higher density resolution screen than the Remarkable 2, but it is significantly trailing behind the Supernote A5X2 or Manta, which does have a 300 ppi screen, which I think is the same as the digital paper, but the biggest advantage here is that slight size advantage for the A5X2. However, we can clearly see the defect in rendering on the digital paper here, because it performs significantly worse even than the Remarkable 2. Contrast and uniformity shows what the initial images also hinted at, and that is that while the contrast and rendering of the whites and blacks is okay, so it is basically on par with the Supernote Manta, which makes sense because they are both using a similar, not the same, but a similar type of a display panel. But the Remarkable 2 outperforms both of them in either display or observable categories. However, the uniformity issues that I commented on and I noticed in the images themselves, they are clearly visible here, and you can see that the uniformity of digital paper is simply not there when compared to either of these two. Reflectivity characteristics are really good. The diffusion of sharpness of the reflections on the digital paper is really excellent, but we can also see that the intensity is a little bit higher than both of these. However, when you combine all of that, we can see that the digital paper outperforms Remarkable 2 and Supernote Manta in the overall reflectivity characteristics. Ghosting performance is also better than either Remarkable 2 or the Supernote Manta on the digital paper. Surface roughness characteristics are good. They are quite good, but they are not really as good as on the Remarkable 2. However, it vastly outperforms the Feel Right 2 of the Supernote Manta, which is something that is to be expected because that surface is simply a little bit too slippery, a little bit too glidey, and not really in the same category of feel as these two. Refresh time of the digital paper is better than the Remarkable 2, but not as good as the Supernote Manta. And when we get to the writing latency, then you can actually see that, this device was meant to be for writing. That's its sole purpose. That's the number one argument that the staunch defenders of Montblanc will kind of start to parrot out. But that argument kind of falls to pieces when you put it to hard cold facts. And hard cold facts are that Montblanc Digital Paper has latency of 35.87 milliseconds, which is not bad, but it cannot compete with the 26.28 milliseconds of the Remarkable 2, which is now 5 years old. So it's 5 years older than this device. And when we compare it to the 17.52 milliseconds of SuperNote Manta, well, it's not really a competition, is it? One of the points of surface to distance is you don't have a front light so that you can have smaller distance and bigger immersion with the content. And none of these devices are performing really brilliantly, but even so, the digital paper actually performs the worst of these three. And a similar story continues with the battery life as well. Aside from it having absolutely abysmal standby battery life, in the reading portion of the test, flipping pages every 20 seconds for an hour, then you can expect to see 16.67 hours of that type of activity per charge, versus 40 hours for Remarkable 2 versus 50 hours for the SuperNote Manta. When we go down to writing portion of the battery test, well, it performs pretty much exactly the same as the SuperNote Manta at 8.33 hours per charge, which is not that bad, but still it's not as good as the Remarkable 2. Let me remind you, the 5-year-old Remarkable 2, that's less than half the price of this device, which still performs at 12 hours per charge. So, Montblanc Digital Paper. This is a very, very odd product. The price of Montblanc Digital Paper is not a problem for me at all. I think that it's actually okay that something like that exists, as long as it delivers. What does it need to deliver? If you have a brand that represents luxury, excellence, opulence, and all of these kinds of things, then your product needs to deliver that as well. It needs to be a reflection of the brand. It needed to do only one thing at the highest level that we currently have. So it needed to set either the highest level of excellence, quality, opulence, luxury, perfection, something like that. Unfortunately, in any of the categories, the Montblanc Digital Paper simply does not deliver. As far as the design goes, well, it's a blatant copy of the Lenovo Smart Paper, which is many, many years old now, so it fails there. In the department of the build quality, it fails there as well, because while maybe your unit that you purchased has perfect execution of the application of the leather stripe here, this one that I purchased for myself doesn't. It actually suffers from build quality issues that would be a reject of much, much lower quality brands and lower priced products. The screen performance? Nope, it doesn't excel there either, as we've seen. The writing performance? Doesn't excel there either. The pen itself, it's Montblanc for crying out loud. It doesn't excel there either, because Heart of Metal 2, for example, easily outclasses this pen. Very, very easily. But if we want to talk about comfort levels, well then Kindle Premium Scribe Pen outperforms this one as well. Functionality-wise, I'm not talking about capabilities, I'm talking about focus and what it actually delivers. It fails there as well, because no amount of distraction-free justifications or excuses can excuse the inability to actually just swipe down to the system menu to adjust your system settings from wherever you are in the system. To force the user to actually exit all the way to home in order to turn on Wi-Fi or turn off Wi-Fi, check your battery levels, or adjust your auto rotation settings is absolutely ludicrous. So it needed to excel in one single thing, one single category to justify the price, to set a new high, to set a new standard, so that the competition can aspire to reach or get close to something that this device actually represents. But this one fails to reach or even compete with 5-year-old devices, such as the Remarkable 2. Objectively speaking, Montblanc Digital Paper is, at best, an average device. At the highest price premium point that we currently have on the market for a device of this size. Alright, so maybe you don't care about all of that. Maybe you really want to own a Montblanc product and you want to use it. So you want to know what's it good at. Well, it is good at certain things. Writing feel and what you actually see when you write on the device is really, really nice. Unfortunately, as discussed before, the writing comfort is not that great, and ironically enough, it's because of the Montblanc pen, which is too slippery, too perfect, too much of everything. And as such, after about 15 minutes of writing or something like that, you do start to feel strain on your wrist. But for short bursts of writing, it feels absolutely great and it is very, very comfortable. The amortization system here and the pressure calibration between the pen and the brush, mainly the fountain brush on the digital paper, is, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely the strongest point of this device. The fountain pen brush, which is one of the best, if not maybe the best brush that I have used of that type of all devices. That brush, in combination with the pressure sensitivity calibration, it provides a really, really nice overall writing experience. And most importantly, it captures the writing characteristics of your handwriting in a really good way. Another aspect that I really like about the Digital Montblanc is the user interface icons and the look that it has. There you can actually see the vision and that somebody was working towards delivering a different type of experience, a higher category and a higher type of an experience. Unfortunately, as we've seen in some of the aspects, the software experience basically collapses and the hardware performance and everything else is mediocre at best. So the user interface icon's excellence alone is not enough to actually justify the existence of this device, but it is something that is memorable and something that makes this environment and this device stand out ever so slightly from the crowd. The identity of this device is built on prestige more than practicality. For some, the name Montblanc will be enough to just go ahead, pull the trigger, and purchase it and enjoy seeing that little logo there. But for those who demand and expect performance, polish and reliability from your investments or your devices, well, this device is not enough, and there are definitely much, much better options on the market out today. Even 5 years later, the Remarkable 2 is a better designed, better executed, more honest product than the Montblanc Digital Paper. So, luxury, as it turns out, can't really excuse everything. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do let me know in the comments down below, and also do let me know what your thoughts and what your opinion is about the Montblanc Digital Paper, and especially how it relates to, Remarkable 2, Kindle Scribe, Supernote Manta, etc, etc. Having seen everything that you've seen in this video, do you think that this product is a valid representation of this logo? Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!